So hey everybody, my name is John Lunn, aka Jonnychipz. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to take you through my setup. Basically I've had a few requests just asking a few bits and pieces around what I've got on my PC, what camera I'm using, what that little thing is on my desk. I thought I'd just do a quick video and take you through my entire setup. So on that note, let's take a look. So yeah, hi guys. So basically I thought the best way to do this is I wrote a blog article a couple of weeks back when I actually built the PC. So I guess the first thing I'm going to do is take you through the PC build and just show you what I put into that PC. Went a little bit over the top. It kind of was a bit of a dual purpose PC when I set it up. So I'm going to take you through the components, tell you a few little bits and pieces about the build, and then I'm going to move on to the other little gadgets that I got sat around me, including my camera, including the other camera that sat over to my right there, and of course the stuff that I got going on behind me, just to give you guys a little bit of an insight as to actually what I'm trying to build here. Not quite finished the room just yet, but I'm going to get there at some point soon. So yeah, I thought the best way to really show you guys is to do a video about it. So hope you enjoy it. If you've got any questions, obviously reach out to me and we can have a chat. I can let you know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So on that, let's flick across to the desktop. And the first thing I want to show you is my day 51. For those of you that are following me, you'll know that I'm doing this 100 Days of Cloud challenge. And one of the days I thought, well, why not? I'll just show you a little bit about my build. So quick flick through this then. So I'm running an AMD Ryzen 9 3900 XT chip. So that was the XT chip. That was the chip they released just before the 3rd gen Ryzens. And I was asked, why don't I hang fire a couple of weeks before the 3rd gen? I thought, well, you know, at the end of the day, I'm buying a Ryzen 9, so they're pretty quick on multi-core sort of processing, you know, as it is. I think Intel were just pipping them on the whole single-core processing speed with their 10th gen chip. So I think Ryzen or AMD released this Ryzen chip, the XT, to try and combat Intel. I think they just about pipped it, just look at the benchmarks. But to be honest, that wasn't the reason I bought it. I bought it because I thought I had a little bit of extra cash floating around. I thought, well, why not? Let's just see if we can cram as many cores into it as I can without going up to the Threadripper series. And it's the first time, I must admit, that I kind of fallen over to AMD. Up to now, I've kind of really been an Intel person. But saying that, mind, I haven't built a PC for years. This was the first ditch attempt, so I thought I'll stick with the Ryzen. Cross over to AMD and check out the Ryzen. So far so good. The case I went for was a Corsair Crystal Series case. Pretty decent. In hindsight, I probably would have gone for something a little bit more quick release on the side panels. These thumb screws are great and it looks really smart. I'll show you it in a second. But in hindsight, I probably would have gone for something more a little bit quick release because these can be a little cumbersome. And one thing I found as of recent is that the intakes, obviously, it's got a filter built in, as you can see there in the picture, but it does suck the dust in, and obviously pulling these thumb screws off is simple enough, obviously, but it just takes that little bit of extra time. If there was some quick release, that would have been a little bit better. But to be honest, all in all, really impressed with the case. It's got some really good cable management on the back side there, and yeah, it looks sleek and smart. Choice of motherboard. So I went over for I did a little bit of research, but I went over for the Asus ROG Strix Gaming, or the X570E Gaming. I mean, not only does it support the chips that I'm, the AMD chip that I was looking to put into it, they did actually do a Dash F motherboard, a gaming motherboard. The only difference that I could work out between the Dash F and the E was that the E included Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built onto the motherboard, whereas the F doesn't. So of course, not really knowing where my internet was going to get positioned, I thought, well, it doesn't hurt having a Wi-Fi in there, you know, a card in there to obviously connect to the internet. So I thought, I'll go spend the extra bit of cash, get that motherboard. But it's a really robust motherboard, some really good expansion in there. Don't profess to know the ins and outs of it, nor will I probably ever. But you know, for my graphics card, I was just looking for that PCI slot, really, just to be a full X16 slot for the motherboard. I believe it's got 2. These aren't. I think the second one may be at lower rates. I think it's X8 or even X4. But look it up. You know, I'm not going to sit here and guess. That's the motherboard. From a RAM perspective, I went for the Corsair purely because I thought I'd be a bit geeky and go for the RGB. So the Corsair range of RAM has got some pretty cool, funky RGB bits and pieces on it. So I went for that. Went for the fastest that I could get, and it was supported by the motherboard. So I really looked at the 3600 megahertz DDR4. So I actually ended up buying 4 sticks of 16 gig. Motherboard's capable of 128 gig of RAM. I thought that might have been overkill. Well, 64 gigs overkill. But hey, you know, like I say, I thought I'd go push the boundaries a little bit. Really, the intentions are that I'll probably be running a few more labs and VMs and spinning a few bits and pieces up. And that was a limitation of my last laptop. I had a bit of a power laptop before this, a HP power laptop, EliteBook, and that was one of the limitations. It did have 32 gig of RAM, but to be honest, when you're spinning up a few servers, it soon needs setup and drags the whole performance of the whole system down. So I thought I'll invest a little bit more heavily on a bit more RAM. And to be honest, obviously my line of work now is, as you'd imagine, we're not doing a massive amount for any on-prem services at the minute, but I use it quite a lot to kind of set applications up, look to migrate applications into Azure, things like that. Before I go to a customer and do it, if there's some application I've never migrated before, then I'll do that. I'll spin it up, I'll set that application up and actually look at what happens to the application. You know, if there's any little quirks that are going on, anything I need to consider, you know, does a database need to be moved, anything. There's lots of little quirks with other non-Microsoft applications. So I thought the more RAM I can get, the more chance I've got of spinning those boxes up on my local machine. So I went for the Corsair Hydro water-cooled system. Now this picture, although it shows the RGB, I was quite disappointed to realise it was my own fault. I bought the non-RGB one. Not the end of the world. You'll see in a second I've mounted that up on the roof of my PC case. It's not RGB, fair enough. I might change those fans out at some point, but hey ho. First ever time I've dealt with any water cool. Comes with the thermal paste pre-applied, so don't go and touch it with your little finger like I did, because you'll get it everywhere. And obviously, you know, you can just sit that up. It comes with lots of different brackets, so depending on whatever chip that you've got on your motherboard, it comes with various options, whether it's Intel or AMD. So yeah, relatively straightforward to fit, surprisingly. That was the one thing I was a little bit nervous about having never done, when I didn't even know if it came with the coolant in already pre-installed, which of course this one does. So yeah, like I say, 240mm radiator, so you can get them with the additional fans, the additional bit longer, but luckily in hindsight I didn't, because yeah, not much space in the roof. I probably would have had to take out all the front fans on the case and mount it in the front, but I'll show you that in a sec. So the graphics card, this was, to be honest, this was probably a bit of a tricky choice for me. I mean, in the end, what I was doing, I was trying to build a machine that was going to be multi-purpose. So really I was looking at myself for work and, you know, having this setup really to try and create a few of these kind of videos. Equally, my kids, they were asking for PCs for gaming and streaming. So it was going to potentially be a gaming PC, but I didn't want to go ridiculously over the top. I mean, as I was buying this, obviously the 3080 was getting released, and I did stop and think about it for a minute, but then, you know, in hindsight, I was glad that I just went ahead and bought this one. This not exactly the most cheapest of graphics cards, and it's the 2070 Super. So I mean, I went for the MSI build. I don't know, actually. I think because just looking at it, I think a lot of them were dual fan. This was a triple fan. I thought, well, you can never get too much fan cooling in the case. So I think that was predominantly my decision. This had 3 fans and it was called the Trio, which obviously means it's got an extra fan. So that was about it. I mean, to be honest, I don't profess to know the ins and outs, and I'm sure anybody commenting on this will probably pick me up on a few things, but hey, that's what I chose it for. From a power point of view, you know, I thought I wasn't going to go as low as sort of 450, 500 watt. I thought, well, I'll get something a little bit beefy with a few options in there. So I opted for the Corsair 850 watts modular power supply, it's gold modular power supply. In hindsight, yeah, it's great. I mean, I've had an extra few bits and pieces in the case, and it just seems to keep on trucking at the moment. No complaints. It's really quiet as well. There's next to no sound that comes from this or the other case fans for that matter. So SSD. So this was the first time I'd come across fitting any NVMe sort of M2 memory. So For those of you who don't know, there's a little slot on the motherboard that you can just take off a heat sink, and this kind of clips in. That's probably about actual size, in fairness. It's probably about that long. Just fits in on your motherboard, and it's storage. So there's 2 slots on my motherboard. I bought a 1 terabyte. I thought I could boot off the OS, nice and quick boot on my machine. And arguably, I probably could have, maybe should have bought another larger M2 memory for the second slot, but I didn't. I fell back to my traditional ways and went for a bit more of a mechanical second hard drive. So I picked up this WD Blue 4 terabyte, you know, typical standard SATA hard drive. It's mounted in the back of the case as well. Nobody can have too many USBs, to be honest. My laptop, it was unbelievable how many USBs I needed. So I thought, I'm going to go and buy an expansion card. So I did. Expansion card, it plugs straight into the power supply, so you've got those USB 3 expansion. So I got an additional 5 slots, nice and simple. Keyboard, as you can see, I went for the Corsair K70 RGB keyboard. Now, not the cheapest of keyboards, but I mean, it just lit up, and it's aluminium. I'll show you in a sec, and it looks nice. So I thought, well, that's why I'm buying that one. Corsair mouse, so went for the M65 Elite. Again, I'll show you that in a second. Now, from a monitor perspective, those who've seen my setup will see that, and I'll show you. I'll flick over to the camera in a second and show you the setup. But from a monitor perspective, I wasn't going to go over the top, and I may change going forward, but for whatever reason, I felt like I wanted a curved monitor to begin with. So I went for this 32-inch AOC. Purely because of the price. It's 144 hertz refresh rate. It's full HD, so it's not 4K, but HD is good enough for me. As you can see, I'm wearing glasses, so I didn't want my fonts, you know, great. I could get them really small, but I thought, well, one, I'm going to be doing a little bit more of this kind of YouTube and some presentations. As much as I'd love to have real estate on a single display, I thought 4K maybe for the gaming might be worthwhile, but in the end I thought, no, I've gone overboard on the PC base itself. I'll stick with as budget as I can make the monitors, and to be honest, I'm not too disappointed with the choices I made there. They're really decent sort of monitor setup. So I've got this AOC 32 inches curved monitor, so again, I'll show you that in a second. Then I opted for AOC again, purely because they had this kind of borderless edge. That would mean that when I mounted my monitors as I've got them, it would be as thin a join as possible. So I've got 2 of these 27-inch monitors. They're not curved, they're just flat LED monitors mounted either side of my 32-inch curved. And then you need a wonking great big desk to stick it all on. So made my way down to IKEA with the family, walked upstairs on the escalator, and just this dining room table sat in front of me. I loved the finish. I sat at it and I thought, yeah, I could have that there, I could have that there. So at the end of the day, guys, it's a dining room table. It costs about £400 from IKEA. Don't ask me. Oh, there we go. It's the Stogska dining table. It's now my office desk. Like I say, I'll show you the setup and the finish, and I'll show you the untidy bit, the cable. I haven't really done much cable management on this desk yet, but there are some trays that you can get the fit up underneath that I'll probably be buying soon. And I think I might need to move a few things around, and certainly need to upgrade my lighting. So I'll probably sort the cabling out at some point. Some other peripherals. I mean, I'd read and seen so much about Stream Decks, and I think they're one of those devices, from what I've read and understood, that they just can help you do so much stuff. And because I knew I was going to be using OBS, I thought, why not? I'll get myself a Stream Deck. If I use it, I use it. If I don't, I'll sell it. And to be honest, it's sat there on my desk, and it's great. It's a great fun little toy, really, and it really helps when it comes to presentation. So changing those camera angles, doing scene transitions, adding elements onto your screens. There's so many utilizations. Well, I've got an apps folder to open up my applications in the morning. You can do all sorts of stuff with the Stream Deck, so really good purchase. So yeah, if you want to check out that webpage, I mean, I've taken you through, there we go, just a few pictures of what the build process actually looked like. And it was good fun. Bearing in mind, I hadn't built a PC in probably over 10 years. This was my first PC in 10 years, back in the days with dabs.com, where you could buy all the components and build them. So I've done a similar thing. probably worth saying that I bought the majority of the components off Amazon. There was a couple of components, like the Stream Deck, I think I got from Curry's PC World, and there were some other bits that I got from Scan. So I've tried to keep them relatively similar, but you can see there just in these pictures that we've got, there's the mounting of the cooler and the fans. There's my 4TB SATA drive sat in the background. Now, one thing to point out, I've got this little hub that hooks up to the buttons on top of the case to control the front fans, the RGB on the front fans, and what colors and whether they flash or not. I don't know if I've taken a picture of it, but I did buy a Corsair Commander, which is slightly bigger than this, and you can plug more fans and more LED lighting. So I did try and set it up, but I had a few issues with it, and it wasn't controlling one of the fans, so I've kind of forgotten about that for a while. I need to revisit it at some point. But like I say, part of it was I bought a bigger one because I thought that the two upper fans would have been RGB as well. They're not. So to be honest, it may sound a bit silly, but the RGB it's fun. It looks great on the desk. It's just a laugh. It's got no real practical value other than looking nice in the corner of the room. So yeah, I'll probably get back to that at some point and have a little play with it. There we go. There's the graphics. Power supply to the graphics, and that's the finished build there. Just a quick side picture. So that was probably about a month and a bit ago now. Just some pictures showing that booting into BIOS and installing Windows. So one thing before I flick away from the desktop and show you around the PC and obviously the other components, I ran a quick benchmark on it just to really get a good idea as to the kind of capability of the machine, and it came back really, really positive. So if you've never used this user benchmark website before, you can just any machine that you're on, jump on there, downloads a little component, and it runs some tests against your configuration, and then it basically reports back to kind of tell you what your setup is rated at. So there's mine. Really happy with the comeback. Gaming PC through the roof. Desktop PC, not quite sure what the 94%, why it didn't get up higher, but I'm more than happy with that. And obviously a workstation, so you can see that there's quite a lot of horsepower in this PC. Helped me do a lot of different things, and not one dedicated thing, because as you'll see in a second, there's some music recording I'm actually going to be doing on this as well. But there we go. You can see if you run that, it's a great little website. Just give you some really good advice as well. If you're looking to upgrade any components in your PC, you can pop those in and really compare them to what you've already got. So there's my results from my user benchmark, which is great. And on that note, let's take you across to my other camera then for a second, and we'll have a little look round. So there we go. There's the PC in its finished state. You can see I've opted for the blue and purple color scheme in there at the moment to suit the office space. If we take a look around the PC unit, you can see that we've got purple front fans. That little fin there is the wireless 6 aerial. We've got a couple of top-mounted USB ports and whatnot that I've got in use just for kind of charging cables and things like that. So that's the PC. That's the element of it. So on that note, we'll take a little look around the whole setup then. So first thing we come across is we've got this sort of gooseneck holder, and what I'm going to be using that for is to hold my iPhone just as I'm kind of taking videos of my Raspberry Pi and some of the IoT setup that I got going on here. So that's that. I got my microphone stand here. It's I remember the make and model of the microphone, but it's not an expensive mic. It's about, I think, 40 or 50 pound maybe. It's just a condenser mic, so I have to be quite close to it for it to pick up your voice. There's the Stream Deck. You can see I've got a few bits and pieces on there. So there we go. Let's move into it. So the other thing I haven't mentioned is the monitors. So they are KRK Rocket 5 monitors. So they pack a punch. They're preamps. They've got amp in them. You can adjust that on the back as well. It comes with a little app that you can test for acoustic satisfaction, whatever you might want to call that. Get your acoustic properties sat correctly and that the angle is correct from a music recording perspective. On top of that speaker, I've just got a little Voyager headset in the box there, and a HDMI capture card there, that thing with the red light on it. And that HDMI capture card is actually just plugged into my Raspberry Pi here. so I can record the output from the Raspberry Pi onto OBS. So let's just spin across then. So you can see the monitor setup there is my 227s and 32. What we'll do, we'll go down low first, just so you can see what we got down here. So underneath the desk here, we've got a Focusrite Scarlett 4i4 audio interface. So you can see that flashing green, sometimes yellow ring is my XLR connected condenser mic that I'm speaking to you through at the moment. The other jack connected cable is an SM, a Shure SM58 that's basically set up because my daughter likes to practice her singing and record herself singing. It's all inbuilt, so it's controlled by an app, all of the additional bits and pieces. So you can see the phantom power is on for the XLR, the condenser mic, but we've got the monitor controls there. I've also got the monitor plugged into a separate little monitor preamp, so I can plug in multiple sets of headphones, so I can go up to 4 sets of headphones. That's under there. I've also got it's a bit messy, like I say, apologies for that, but I'll probably get around to it. I've got a little keyboard splitter, and the main reason for that keyboard splitter is because this is my PC setup, and my work setup is over here to my left. So I can actually get the monitors over onto these monitors, but the control of the keyboard and mouse, I don't want to have to keep facing this way all the time, so I can get those onto these screens here. So moving along to the left, got an Amazon Echo Show 8, so the 8-inch screen. You'll see I've done a couple of posts about that, getting that to act as a fourth monitor, things like that. My trusty coaster. So moving up, I've got a set of Bose QC2 wireless headphones in there. I got the Lemetric Time device, great funky little device. I've been asked by so many people what that is. It's marginally expensive for what it is, but it's a little Bluetooth speaker, wireless connected, Wi-Fi connected device. You can download apps and upload, as you can see there, my Twitter followers or YouTube followers, and it's a clock, and can also act as a radio and other things like that. So at that note, I'm on 84. Like and subscribe, please. Push me up as best as I can. I'd like a few more followers. A couple of wireless charging pads. Trusty cactus from IKEA, of course. And let's move up to the top. So first webcam, which I'll quickly flick on to so you can see the picture, is this webcam. Is actually a Sandstream. It's relatively cheap. I think about £40, £50. Full HD 1080p webcam. I just bought it purely because I didn't want to rely on that camera as the main and only camera. So my main webcam, which is this view here, is the Canon M50D, the EOS Canon M50D. I'll stand up a little bit and get a bit of a closer look up on that. So it's a regular, I think it's a crop mirror sensor in there. So at the minute it's got the stock lens of, I think I'm on about 15mm, but because of the crop sensor, it acts as about an 18 to 20mm. So I think at some point I'd like to make a bit of a difference on that lens and maybe go for a wide angle lens down to sort of 14mm if possible, or the equivalent of. And that's possibly about it for the desktop. Other monitor lighting, like I said earlier, the lighting is something that I think now I've moved to this table. It's clear that I'm further away from the lighting where I was, so the lights I think need to be upgraded because sometimes it's a little bit dark on my face. Okay, spin around. Like I say, that's my work rig setup. What I'll do quickly, the monitors, in case, well, some people have asked how I've mounted the monitors, and they are on, I don't know if you can see it under there, but there's a single mount on there holding up that left monitor, and under this side you can see I've got a dual mount, just clamped to the desk, which is holding up the 32 and that 27 vertical. Takes a little bit of fiddling around with, but they're brilliant. I was hoping to mount one above, but I think I'd have to get some different attachments. So I've got this great big space above me that at some point I'm either going to mount another monitor, but I've actually got some acoustic treatment, because I don't know if you can hear on the back of this recording, but if you've not got any acoustic treatment in your room, then it'll just add that little bit of an echo to the voice. So I'm getting some acoustic treatment for the YouTube videos, but equally for the recording stuff. So if I spin this way and point the camera to the back of the room, you can see, I mean, for those of you that don't know, I am a drummer. Don't do as much drumming as I'd like now, but I've got my little Roland V drums. They're set up in the corner there. I've got to run the cables to my audio interface, but the point is I can record MIDI or straight out from the module that comes with the V drums. Second set of monitor headphones, SM58, a trusty SM58, if you know anything. They're the workhorse of vocals. And then we move on to my bookshelf. So spent a bit of time, bought a little bookshelf on the range the other day, got some potted plants, something that just looks nice in the background. But like I said, I've got some audio acoustic treatment coming. So they're basically foam panels that are going to go on the wall. Hope to have them in the next 2 weeks or so. I'm actually got to make them up, put some grey fabric over them, and obviously got to get some more LED strip lights. But they're going to be one there and one on that door there. But that's a little storeroom door. And we'll spin back round, and that's been a complete, well, apart from looking under there to my little set of IoT devices. But that's pretty much been a complete tour of my studio setup. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Like I say, there have been so many people asking me questions about that over the last few weeks since I built it, and since I've obviously been putting pictures up and things like that. I thought I'd give you guys a quick tour. So I really do hope you've enjoyed that. Thanks for staying tuned. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll catch you on the next video.